My husband admitted he only married me out of pity, so I left him. Now he's desperate for me to return. I still remember the moment he said it. I only married you out of pity. There it was, those 8 words that shattered the foundation of everything I thought was solid. It was a quiet Tuesday evening, the kind of day where nothing big is supposed to happen. We were sitting at our small, cherrywood dining table. My husband, Ben, looked down at his empty plate, his fork twirling back and forth between his fingers. I must have misheard. What? I asked, my voice almost a whisper. I held my breath. He didn't look up, but I could see the hesitation, the way his eyes were focused on anything but me. I don't know if I meant it like that, he mumbled, the faintest hint of shame in his voice. I leaned in, barely breathing. No, say it again. I want to make sure I heard you right, Ben. He looked up finally, meeting my gaze with a strange mixture of guilt and something else, something I couldn't quite read. I didn't really feel like I had a choice, he said quietly. You seemed so fragile. And after everything you'd been through, I just thought, well, I thought you'd fall apart if I didn't. Fragile. Fall apart. Each word was a tiny nail hammered into the coffin of the life we'd built together. I wanted to scream, throw my plate at the wall, demand he take back every syllable, but instead, I just sat there, stunned, every nerve in my body suddenly numb. Why now? I finally managed. Why are you telling me this now? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know. I didn't want to keep lying, I guess. He was quiet for a moment, then added, I thought maybe we'd both be better off. Better off? I asked, my voice now sharper. Better off, Ben? So what, you're saying this whole time I've been some charity case to you? He flinched, looking down again. No, that's not fair. I mean, maybe in the beginning, yes, it was. I felt responsible. But you were. I mean, you were going through so much, and I cut him off. So you felt sorry for me, and that's why you asked me to marry you? You felt sorry for me? Ben rubbed his temples, looking tired, or maybe just weary of my reaction. I don't know. Maybe. It's not that simple, Maria. We've had good times. You know we have. But what, Ben? Finish the sentence, I demanded, my voice rising. He looked me in the eyes. But I'm not sure if I was ever in love with you. The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I could feel my heart splintering, piece by piece, as if someone had just taken a chisel to it. You're not sure? I repeated, barely recognizing my own voice. Ben opened his mouth to say something but stopped, shaking his head slightly. He didn't deny it, didn't offer any explanation, just stared at me with that empty, haunted. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I think I need some air, I muttered, barely able to keep my voice steady. Maria, wait. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it away, the contact feeling like it would burn me. I need air, Ben. My voice cracked, but I managed to keep my composure as I grabbed my coat and left the house. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get out, had to escape the suffocating walls that had suddenly become a prison. For days, I stayed with my sister, barely sleeping, barely eating. The world felt upside down, like everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, was a lie. The worst part? Ben barely even tried to reach out. I waited for a call, a text, some sign that he regretted what he'd said. But there was nothing. Just silence. Why are you putting yourself through this? My sister, Claire, asked on the 3rd day. I stared at the floor, hugging a pillow. I don't know, Claire. I just keep thinking. Maybe I can fix it. Maybe we can fix it. She scoffed. Fix what? A marriage built on pity? Honey, you deserve so much better than that. I winced. Hearing it from someone else made it sound even worse. But we've been together for so long. We've built a life together. She raised an eyebrow. And you're telling me you're okay living in a life built on lies? I had no answer for that. It wasn't until a few more days later, when I went back to the house to get some of my things, that I realized just how serious he was. The house was strangely quiet as I walked through the front door. Ben was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone, and when he saw me, he looked surprised. "Maria," he said, standing up awkwardly. "I wasn't expecting you." I brushed past him, heading straight for the bedroom. "I'm just here for some things." He followed me, lingering in the doorway. "Maria, can we talk?" I didn't look at him. "There's nothing left to talk about, Ben." "Yes, there is," he insisted. "Look, I know I hurt you, but maybe we can find a way to move forward." I let out a bitter laugh, turning to face him. "Move forward? How exactly do you expect us to do that?" He shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know. Maybe we can go to counseling or something. Work through this." "Why?" I asked, the anger bubbling up again. "Why would you even want to? You've admitted you were never in love with me, that you only married me because you felt sorry for me. And you think therapy's going to fix that?" He looked at me, his face filled with a desperation I hadn't seen before. Because maybe I was wrong, Maria. Maybe I do love you. I didn't realize it until now." I stared at him, stunned. "You didn't realize it? After 7 years of marriage, you didn't realize if you loved me or not?" He took a step closer, reaching for my hand. "Please, Maria. Just give me a chance to make it up to you." I pulled my hand away, my voice steely. "Make it up to me? Do you even hear yourself, Ben? This isn't something you can just make up. You broke my heart. You admitted that you lied to me for years, that you pitied me. That's not love, Ben. That's cruelty." He looked down, defeated. I didn't mean to hurt you." I shook my head, feeling the last remnants of hope crumble. "It doesn't matter what you meant, Ben. What matters is what you did." He was silent, watching as I gathered the last of my things, and when I finally left, he didn't follow me. For weeks, he called, texted, even showed up at Claire's apartment, begging for another chance. Each time, he said the same things, that he was sorry, that he'd been confused, that he realized too late how much he loved me. And each time, I reminded myself of those 8 words that had shattered my heart. Each time he reached out, I could almost hear those 8 words echoing in my head. "I only married you out of pity." They were like a shadow following me, replaying in moments when I almost started to miss him or questioned if I'd made the right choice by leaving. One night, about 2 months after I'd walked out, I was cooking dinner at Claire's. She'd insisted I stay with her until I felt strong enough to move on. It was a comfort, and a chance for us to reconnect. That night, she was pouring wine as I sautéed vegetables, both of us laughing about her dating misadventures, when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. It was Ben. Again. I rolled my eyes, letting out a sigh. "When does it end?" Claire peered over my shoulder, spotting his name. "You know what I'm going to say," she said, her voice edged with exasperation. I know. Block him." "But..." I trailed off, stirring the pan absent-mindedly. "But what, Maria? What are you still holding on to?" I couldn't answer. Part of me wished I could block him and never look back, but there was this small part of me that needed to understand why he'd done what he did. Why, after all those years together, he'd chosen pity over honesty. That small part of me wanted answers. It was early Saturday morning, right after a fresh snowfall, when I finally agreed to meet him. I decided I needed the closure, once and for all. We met at the cafe down the street, and when I arrived, Ben was already there, his face pale, his expression anxious. "Thanks for coming," he said quietly, standing as I sat down across from him. "I don't have much time," I replied, trying to keep my voice firm. I didn't want to let him see how his desperation was affecting me. I'd spent months rebuilding, and I wasn't about to let him tear that down. He nodded, swallowing hard. "Maria, I know I messed up. I know you might never forgive me, but I need you to understand. It wasn't all a lie." I raised an eyebrow. "So which part was real, Ben? The pity, or the years you spent pretending to love me?" He flinched, and I could see a glimmer of regret in his eyes. I was confused, okay? At first, yes, I was worried about you. You were going through so much, losing your mum, having to drop out of school. I didn't know how to help you. I thought if we got married, maybe it would help you feel secure. Safe. Safe? I repeated, incredulous. Ben, safe isn't love. Safe isn't a foundation for a marriage. If that's what you wanted, you should have been honest from the start. He reached across the table, grabbing my hands. I felt a pang of something, maybe loss, maybe regret, but I kept my hands steady under his grip. Maria, I swear, I didn't realize how much I loved you until you were gone, he said, his voice thick with emotion. It's like the moment you left, I realized how empty everything was without you. I pulled my hands away, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction at my own strength. Ben, maybe you loved the idea of me. Maybe you loved having someone to care for, someone who needed you. But you don't love me. Not the way I want to be loved. Not the way I deserve to be. He shook his head, looking helpless. No, that's not true. I swear, Maria, I thought I was doing the right thing by marrying you. I thought I could make myself feel what you needed. But I didn't need someone who was forcing themselves to love me, Ben. I wanted someone who just did. Without pity, without obligation. I took a deep breath, the words tumbling out, finally freeing the weight that had been on my chest for so long. I spent so many years wondering if I was enough for you, if I was the kind of woman you actually wanted. I can't live like that anymore. Ben's shoulders slumped. I could see the struggle on his face, as if he were grasping for the right words to make this all go away. But they didn't come. Instead, he lowered his gaze, finally understanding, finally silent. After that meeting, I felt a strange kind of relief. The kind that comes when you've let go of a heavy burden. I moved out of Claire's and found a small apartment downtown. I started painting again, something I hadn't done in years. It felt like waking up after a long, hazy dream, like I was finally reclaiming pieces of myself that had been buried. Months passed. I heard from Ben once in a while, a text here and there, but he no longer begged. His messages were shorter, more reflective, and eventually, they stopped altogether. One afternoon, about a year after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in a park sketching when I heard a familiar voice. Maria? I looked up, startled. It was Ben, standing a few feet away, hands shoved into his pockets, looking both hopeful and hesitant. Ben. Hi, I said, surprised but not exactly unhappy to see him. He took a few steps closer, gesturing toward the empty spot beside me. Mind if I sit? I nodded, shifting to make room. We sat in silence for a moment, both watching the ducks glide across the pond. Finally, he spoke. I wanted to say, thank you, he said quietly. I looked at him, puzzled. For what? For letting me go, he said, his voice raw but genuine. You were right. About all of it. I spent so much time trying to be what I thought you needed. I never stopped to ask myself if I was the person you actually wanted. He nodded, watching me with that same, familiar gaze, but this time, there was no desperation. Only understanding. I hope you're happy, Maria. I am, I replied, surprised by how true it felt. I really am. He smiled, a little sadly. Good. You deserve that. More than anyone I know. We sat there a bit longer, neither of us saying much, just sharing a quiet moment. Then, with a soft nod, he stood up, giving me one last lingering look before walking away. As he disappeared down the path, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. There would be no more pity, no more uncertainty, no more longing for the love I had wanted so desperately. I was finally free, and for the first time, I knew I could build a life on my own terms, a life I didn't need anyone's permission or validation to live. And that, I realized, was the truest kind of happiness.